The business-class cabin of Flight 2847 gleamed with holiday indifference. White leather seats, soft lighting, and passengers who'd paid extra to avoid the chaos of families traveling for Christmas. Alexander Ashford swirled his wine and checked his watch. 6:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. By the time they landed in Aspen, he'd have missed another family gathering, disappointed another set of expectations, proven once again that Ashford Global mattered more than anything else. He was fine with that. Easier to build empires than relationships. "Excuse me coming through, sorry." Alexander looked up to see a young woman stumbling down the aisle, dragging an oversized canvas bag and holding the hand of a small boy bundled in a puffy red coat with snowflakes on it. The child clutched a stuffed penguin that had seen better days. The woman's eyes scanned the seat numbers with barely concealed panic. 4A and 4B. That's... Oh no, she'd stopped right at Alexander's row. His seat was 4A, the window. "Hi," she said breathlessly, pushing blonde hair out of her face. "I'm so sorry. I think we're next to you." Alexander glanced at his perfectly arranged space. Laptop, wine, the financial reports he'd planned to review. Then at the boy, who was staring at him with enormous blue eyes and rosy cheeks. "Mom, is this our spot?" the boy whispered loudly. "Yes, baby, just let me..." She wrestled with the bag, trying to stuff it in the overhead compartment. It wouldn't fit. Alexander stood with a barely suppressed sigh. "Let me." "Oh, you don't have to." He'd already taken the bag, repositioning it efficiently. Years of traveling had taught him the geometry of overhead bins. "There." "Thank you so much. I'm Emma, and this is..." "Tommy," the boy announced proudly, holding up his penguin. "And this is Pebbles." "Charming," Alexander said flatly, returning to his seat. Emma's smile dimmed slightly as she helped Tommy into the middle seat, buckling him in. "Remember what we talked about? Inside voice on the plane, okay?" "Okay, Mama." As Emma settled into the aisle seat, Alexander couldn't help but notice the worn edges of her coat, the way she'd carefully smoothed Tommy's hair with hands that looked chapped from work, the absence of any ring on her finger. The boy's coat, though clean, was clearly from a discount store. He returned his attention to his laptop, determined to ignore them. "Wow," Tommy breathed, pressing his face to the window as the plane began to taxi. "Mama, look at all the lights." "I see them, baby." "Are we really going to see Grandma for Christmas?" "We really are." Emma's voice was thick with emotion. "She's been waiting all year." "Because she's sick?" "Because she misses you very much." Alexander tried to focus on the merger documents, but the conversation pulled at something he'd buried deep. His own mother had died 3 years ago, alone in a hospital while he closed a deal in Singapore. He'd made it back for the funeral. Barely. The plane lifted off and Tommy gasped with delight. "We're flying! Mama, we're actually flying!" "First time?" Alexander found himself asking against his better judgment. Tommy nodded vigorously. "Mom saved for a whole year. She works at 3 places, the grocery store and the restaurant, and she cleans offices at night when I'm sleeping at Mrs. Patterson's." "Tommy," Emma said quietly, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. "But it's true! You work really hard so we could fly to Grandma's." Emma met Alexander's eyes briefly, and he saw the pride and exhaustion there. "It's a special Christmas," she said simply. Alexander nodded and returned to his screen, but the numbers blurred. 3 jobs, saving for a year. For one flight to see her dying mother, he was certain that's what sick meant. 20 minutes into the flight, Tommy began fidgeting. He pulled out a battered coloring book and crayons from his coat pocket, carefully setting up his work on the tray table. One of the crayons rolled off and landed in Alexander's lap. "Sorry," Tommy reached for it, nearly elbowing Alexander's wine. Alexander caught the glass just in time. "Careful." "I'm really sorry, mister. Mama says I have energy like a rocket." "It's fine." Alexander handed back the crayon, red worn down to a nub. Tommy studied him with unnerving directness. "Are you going to see your family for Christmas?" "Tommy, that's personal," Emma started. "No," Alexander said. "I'm going to Aspen for work." Tommy's brow furrowed. "On Christmas Eve?" But that's when families are supposed to be together. Some people work on holidays. That's sad. Tommy said it with the blunt honesty only children possess. Don't you have anybody? I have colleagues. That's not the same. Tommy picked up his penguin. Pebble says you look lonely. Tommy! Emma's face flushed. I'm so sorry. He doesn't mean... It's all right. But something in Alexander's chest tightened uncomfortably. Tommy leaned closer, lowering his voice to a stage whisper. Mom said lonely people need friends. That's why we always talk to people who look sad. Are you sad? Alexander looked into those earnest blue eyes and found he couldn't lie. Sometimes. Me too. When I miss my dad. He's in heaven with the angels. Tommy said it matter-of-factly, but his small hand tightened around the penguin. But Mom says it's okay to be sad sometimes, as long as we don't stay there. Emma's eyes were bright with tears she was fighting to contain. Baby, maybe Mr. Ashford, Alexander Ashford. Maybe Mr. Ashford wants to work quietly. Actually, Alexander heard himself say, I could use a break. Tommy, what are you coloring? Tommy's face lit up like Times Square. Santa's workshop, do you want to help? I have extra crayons. And so Alexander Ashford, CEO of a multinational corporation, found himself coloring a somewhat deranged-looking elf while a 5-year-old narrated an elaborate story about the North Pole's logistics operation. Emma watched with quiet amazement, occasionally adding details that made Tommy giggle. Mr. Ashford, Tommy said after a while, can I tell you a secret? If you want to. Tommy leaned in close. I'm a little bit scared about Grandma. Mom says she's really sick. What if she doesn't remember me? Alexander set down his crayon. He thought about his own mother. Her final voicemail he'd never returned because he'd been too busy. Her voice saying she understood, she was proud of him. She loved him. Tommy, even if she's very sick, she'll remember you. Grandmas always remember the people they love most. It's like... it's imprinted on their hearts. Really? Really? And you know what? The fact that you're going to see her, that your mom worked so hard to get you there, that's the best Christmas present you could give her. Tommy considered this, then nodded solemnly. Okay, I made her a picture at school. It's in Mama's bag. She's going to love it. As the flight continued, Alexander found himself actually talking. Not networking, not negotiating, but genuinely conversing. Emma told him about her mother, a retired teacher who'd raised Emma alone and was now battling stage 4 cancer. Tommy told him about kindergarten, his friend Marcus who ate paste, and his dream of becoming a penguin scientist. There's a guy who studies penguins? Tommy asked, eyes wide. Several, actually, marine biologists. That's what I'm gonna be, Tommy declared. I'll study penguins and Mama won't have to work 3 jobs anymore. Emma's laugh was watery. Deal, baby. When dinner service came, Alexander noticed Emma order only for Tommy, chicken nuggets and apple juice. And for you, ma'am? The flight attendant asked. Oh, I'm fine, not hungry. Alexander recognized the lie, the choice between feeding yourself and saving money. Actually, he said to the attendant, could you bring 2 of the salmon dinners? I can't decide which entree I want, so I'll try both. It was absurd. No one ordered 2 meals, but the attendant nodded professionally. When the food arrived, Alexander made a show of tasting the salmon, then pushing one plate toward Emma. I definitely prefer this one. Would you mind taking the other? I hate waste. Emma met his eyes, understanding passing between them. That's very kind. Thank you. She ate slowly, savoring each bite in a way that told Alexander it had been a while since she'd had a proper meal. Tommy was beginning to fade, his head drooping as the cabin lights dimmed for the evening portion of the flight. Emma gently removed his shoes and tucked her jacket around him like a blanket. He's a great kid, Alexander said quietly. He's everything. Emma's voice was fierce with love. When his father died, car accident 2 years ago, I thought I'd drown, but Tommy, he keeps me swimming, keeps me believing things will get better. They will. She smiled sadly. You don't know that. No, but I know determination when I see it. 3 jobs, saving for a year, Flying across the country on Christmas Eve. You're a fighter. I'm a mother. It's different. Is it? Emma studied him. You said you're going to Aspen for work. Is that really what you want to be doing right now? The question hit harder than it should have. Alexander thought about the empty house waiting for him, the luxury that felt increasingly hollow, the success that tasted like ash. Honestly, I don't know anymore. Mom? Tommy stirred, half asleep. Is Mr. Ashford going to be alone on Christmas? Shh, baby, sleep. But he shouldn't be alone. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. Tommy's eyes fluttered open, earnest and worried. Mr. Ashford, do you want to come with us to Grandma's? She makes really good cookies, and she lets you stay up late, and... Tommy, sweetheart, Mr. Ashford has his own plans. But he said he'd be by himself. Tommy was waking up more distressed. Pebbles says we can't let him be by himself. That's not what Christmas is about. Your penguin is very wise, Alexander said, his throat tight. So will you come, please? Alexander looked at this child, this beautiful, empathetic, generous child who had nothing but wanted to share it anyway. He looked at Emma, who was trying not to hope he'd say yes, because she understood loneliness too. He thought about the Aspen house, the conference calls, the merger that would wait. He thought about his mother, her final Christmas when he'd sent an expensive gift instead of showing up. Tommy, he said slowly, I can't come to your grandma's house. That's special time for your family. Tommy's face fell. But, Alexander continued, what if I changed my flight? What if I went home instead to New York, where my sister lives, and spent Christmas with my family? Would that count? Tommy considered this seriously. Will you be with people who love you? Yes. And will you not be lonely? No, I won't be lonely. Tommy smiled, satisfied. Okay, that's good. Mom says lonely people need friends, but family is even better than friends. Your mom is very smart. Emma was crying openly now, not even trying to hide it. Thank you, she whispered, for being kind to us, for seeing us. Alexander understood what she meant. He'd spent years not seeing people, just seeing numbers, deals, obstacles, and opportunities. Tonight he'd seen a 5-year-old boy with a worn penguin and a heart bigger than most adults. He'd seen a mother working 3 jobs to give her son one Christmas memory. He'd seen what actually mattered. Thank you, he said, both of you, for reminding me what Christmas is supposed to be about. When they landed, Alexander didn't head to his connection. He went to the airline counter and changed his ticket. Denver to New York, leaving in 3 hours. He had time. He found Emma and Tommy at their gate, waiting for their connecting flight to Denver. Mr. Ashford! Tommy ran over, Pebbles clutched tight. Did you change your flight? I did. I'm going to see my sister and her kids. I haven't seen them in 2 years. 2 years? Tommy looked scandalized. That's forever. It is. Too long. Alexander knelt down to Tommy's level. Thank you for being my friend today, for teaching me something important. That lonely people need friends. That everyone needs connection. That work isn't everything. That sometimes a 5-year-old knows more about life than a 40-year-old CEO. He stood and handed Emma an envelope. Don't open it until I leave.
What?
Just trust me. Merry Christmas, Emma. Tommy. He shook the boy's small hand solemnly. Take care of your mom and your grandma. I will. Merry Christmas, Mr. Ashford. Alexander walked away, heading toward his new gate. He didn't look back. Behind him, Emma opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a business card with a note scrawled on the back. For medical bills, rent, Tommy's future, whatever you need. No strings. Just one person helping another. Consider it a Christmas miracle, or call it paying forward the kindness you showed me tonight. You work 3 jobs. I have more money than I know what to do with. Seems like a simple equation. My company has an opening in HR. Flexible hours, good benefits, salary that means you only need 1 job. Email me if interested, or don't. The check is yours either way. Thank you for raising a boy who sees people, who understands that lonely hearts need friends. who reminded me what Christmas, what life, is supposed to be about. Merry Christmas. Give your mother my best. Alexander. Emma sank into a chair, sobbing while Tommy patted her arm. Why are you crying, Mama? Are you sad? No, baby, I'm happy. Someone just gave us a miracle. Was it Mr. Ashford? He's nice. I knew he just needed a friend. Yes, baby, he is very nice. And he's not lonely anymore? No, sweetheart, I don't think he is. 3 gates away, Alexander sat waiting for his flight to New York, phone in hand. He'd just called his sister, who'd cried when he said he was coming home for Christmas. Now he was scrolling through contacts he hadn't called in years. Friends, colleagues who'd become just names, people he'd stopped seeing. He thought about Tommy's question, "Are you lonely?" He had been, for years, but not tonight. Tonight, he'd been reminded that wealth wasn't measured in stock portfolios, that success wasn't counted in acquisitions, and that the best business deal of his life had been trading an evening of solitude for a few hours with a boy and his penguin. Mom said lonely people need friends. She was right, Tommy, Alexander murmured, boarding his flight. She was absolutely right. And for the first time in 3 years, Alexander Ashford went home for Christmas.